We're going live.
There we go. All right, so when we deconstruct a prompt, you would on the test likely have some kind of writing utensil to use. And so it's about interacting and making sure that we can pull at it to know what we have to do. Because here we have two sentences, but you're going to notice there's a lot more parts than just two parts to answering this question and things we need to consider. So when we deconstruct, we start by looking at it sentence by sentence, and we start pulling it apart to go, okay, what's it telling me? So the first thing, we just talked about that list. You have to select a novel or play. They used to say of literary merit, but that phrase is gone. You can now pick anything. I'm going to tell you this, pick a work that we study this year, because I guarantee you, I will prep you for how to write about it to work for this exam, and you will have the details for it so that you can fully answer the question. Try to stay to things we read together in class. Then we need to pick one that has a tragic figure. We have talked about tragedy and definitions. And so what if you're that student that didn't have me and didn't get that lesson through the year? Are you going to be well equipped to answering this question? No. So think about how we've said the AP test has a bias in favor of kids that know stuff. This would work out in your favor because you'd be like, I know how to talk about a tragic figure. Yeah, perfect. We're going to bring in that definition and use it. But we have to be able to talk about a tragic figure that functions as an instrument of the suffering of others. Where does that statement come from? Look at the prompt. Look at the prompt. Look at the quote. Are you noticing that it's actually worded in the quote that they gave you that began the prompt? Now, if we go back to despicable star writing, you've done star writing for long enough. We can talk about that. When you look at star writing, do you know how they give you that quote to think about and then they ask you the question and you were taught, hey, use the quote to help focus your answer? College Board does the same thing if they put a quote on there. They're giving it to you not just to base their question on, but to also give you some things to talk about. So if you take a look back at the quote, what are some of the statements that don't make their way here that you're going, ooh, that would help me to be able to write this essay? So one that stands out to me, if we go to this tragic figure thing that we have to talk about, there's that quote about them standing like a tree that catches the lightning. First, trees are tall, so they're taller than the grass. We create that height for our tragic figure. But also if we're looking to write about Oedipus, a classic Greek work, hey, who's the classic Greek guy that threw lightning? Zeus. So now all of a sudden, can we help to talk about theme with destiny if we can kind of steal that metaphor and use it for our essay? Yeah. So don't be afraid to use that quote to kind of pull in some things and look for those phrases that could help you here. So we've got to look for characters that, not just are tragic, but also are the instrument of the suffering of others. We're going to talk about that in brainstorming in a moment. So we know what we got to look for. We got to first choose that work. 2, identify the tragic figure. 3, figure out who suffers because of them. So notice, one sentence, we've already got 3 things we have to do. Let's look at our second sentence. It tells us that we have to write an essay. Here's task 4. Now I know some of you are going, well, duh, obviously we have to write an essay. Exactly. There's always a duh statement in every AP prompt that when you read it, you go, well, that's stupid. Why did they have to say that? Look at the hallways. That's all I have to say. Look at the hallways. Thank you for laughing. Then, as we move on, in which you explain how, I would mark this for yourself to help to keep you focused on what your task is. Your task is not to explain what, but how. And so it helps to make sure that we're focused on not just identifying, but analyzing. How the suffering brought upon others by that figure contributes to the tragic vision of the work as a whole. Every AP question 3 prompt will ask students to not just answer the question, but to then consider how that answer affects the work as a whole. This is where we broaden to theme. What makes Oedipus such a tragic figure? It's that he persists in fighting a battle he can never win. Notice that we're adding that in and pushing the theme in how this question is constructed. So 2 sentences, 5 tasks altogether that you have to do as you sit in that seat. My suggestion is when we deconstruct in this way because it makes sure that you do everything you're supposed to do. If you forget to do one of these tasks, for example, hey, I don't get to this. I write the essay and I talk about how that character is tragic, how they're the instrument to the suffering of others, but I don't get to the tragic vision of the work as a whole. You're not going to get a qualifying score. They're going to say you didn't answer part of the prompts. Sorry, you don't get a passing grade. We want to make sure that we ensure that for ourselves. So taking the time to number the tasks just helps to center you. Questions on deconstructing the prompt. Did I lose anybody? We'll be back.